الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا إنه من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. Please, for the youth leaving the masjid, barakallahu feekum, lower your voices. Be mindful of where you are. من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلله فلا هادي له أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله صلوات ربي وسلامه وبركاته عليه. And tonight, which بإذن ta'ala is the 20th of Rabi al-Akhir in the year 1439 into the Hijrah of al-Mustafa, the Prophet of Allah, Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And we continue here at Masjid al-Sahaba, reading from and benefiting from our study of the book Bahjah, al-Quloob al-Abrar, by its author, Shaykh al-Allama Abdul Rahman ibn Nasir as-Sa'adi rahimahullah ta'ala. And unfortunately, we don't have the projector tonight like we normally do. And we continue with the 13th hadith, the hadith collected by both Bukhari and Muslim from Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiyallahu anhu wa ardaahu. قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. He said, the Messenger of Allah صلى الله عليه وسلم said, المؤمن للمؤمن كالبنيان يشد بعضه بعضا. The believer, in regards and respective of another believer, is like a bunyan, is like a single structure, like a solid structure. يشد بعضه بعضا, whose parts reinforce each other. The believers are like a solid structure, meaning the believer towards another believer is like the parts of a building that reinforce each other. All of them are important. Some of them are more vital than others. Some of them play a greater role than others. However, they are all important. This is similar to the hadith that we heard last week, and what is similar to it that we have been discussing in the khutbah for the last couple of weeks about the tafawut, yani the disparity that exists in the levels of people's iman. In the levels of people's iman, and how you have the mu'min that is qawi and the mu'min that is da'if, yani the strong believer and the weak believer. And similar is the case that a community of believers or an ummah, they are like a building whose parts reinforce each other. Whose parts reinforce each other. And there are some parts of a building that are weaker than other parts of a building, and there are some parts that are stronger than other parts of the building. However, the affairs, as is mentioned in the other hadith, the Prophet ﷺ mentioned the example of the believers fi tarahumihim wa ta'atufihim, and their mercy that they have towards each other and the compassion that they have towards another. Kajasadin wahid, like a single body. إذا اشتكى منها عضو تداعى له سائر الجسد بالسهر والحمى. And that if some of them are suffering, then they all feel the pain. And the Shaykh Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, in his explanation of that particular hadith, in his tremendous book that is called Wujub at-Ta'awun Bain al-Muslimin, and likewise in his book that is called al-Qawa'id al-Hisan, he mentions that this hadith is connected to the hadith of Abu Musa al-Ash'ari, and inasmuch as that the body of a person's body has different parts to it. You have a hand, and the hand cannot do the job of the feet. If you were to try to walk on your hands, no matter how gifted and skilled you are, you'll become very tired very quick. The head has a different job, and everything that is in the head has a different job than its other parts. The eyes cannot be the ears cannot be the eyes. Allah has given everybody mawahib, everybody their different potentialities and their different gifts and abilities and so on and so forth. The believers are in need of each other to collectively work together. When they do that, then they share in the reward collectively, and they have nothing to envy each other for, or anything of the sort. This is the relation that the believers have, the relationship that the believers have with one another. That they reinforce each other. And what follows here, in the explanation of a Shaykh Asadi rahimahullah ta'ala, that is about 2.5 pages long, is extremely beneficial. And the details of what is mentioned here, if they were to be elaborated upon, would take many, many lectures in reality. And much of what is found here is found elsewhere in the speech of the Shaykh, and is found in a tremendous book that is called As-Siyasatu al-Shar'iyyah lil-Ra'i wal-Ra'iyyah by Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah ta'ala, pertaining the management of a Muslim nation and the roles that people play in cooperating with each other upon al-birr wa taqwa, and how the goal of the believers is one and it is shared, وَهِيَ أَن تَكُنْ كَلِمَةُ اللَّهِ هِيَ الْعُلْيَا, which is to make the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala uppermost. And this is the preoccupation of the believers, and to strengthen each other and to reinforce each other in their iman. وَشَبَّكَ بَيْنَ أَصَابِعِهِ, and the Prophet ﷺ, he demonstrated how the believers reinforce each other by interlacing his fingers. عليه الصلاة والسلام. الشيخ السعدي رحمه الله تعالى, he says, هذا حديث عظيم فيه الخبر عن من النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم عن المؤمنين. This is a tremendous hadith. And here the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم is informing us about the believers. أنهم على هذا الوصف, that this is how they are, this is their collective description. ويتضمن الحث منه على مراعاة هذا الأصل. And this hadith, it contains within it an encouragement from the Prophet ﷺ to safeguard this asl, and this fundamental, foundational affair of the relationship of the believers being one of reinforcing each other. وَأَنْ يَكُونُوا إِخْوَانًا, and that it is an encouragement that they be brothers to each other, truly brothers to each other. مُتَرَاحِمِينَ مُتَحَابِينَ مُتَعَاطِفِينَ, having mutual mercy towards each other, and sincere love towards each other, and compassion towards each other. يُحِبُّ كُلٌّ مِّنْهُمْ لِلْآخَرِ مَا يُحِبُّ لِنَفْسِهِ, each of them loving for each other what they love for themselves. وَيَسْعَى فِي ذَلِكَ, and that they strive diligently in doing so. وَأَنَّ عَلَيْهِمْ مُرَاعَاةَ الْمَصَالِحِ الْكُلِّيَّةِ الْجَامِعَةِ لِمَصَالِحِهِمْ كُلِّهِمْ, and that it is upon them collectively to be mindful of what is of a comprehensive benefit for all of them, what is of the greater good for them as a community of people. الْجَامِعَةِ لِمَصَالِحِهِمْ كُلِّهِمْ, and those things that gather within them what is of a greater good for them and advantage for them collectively. وَأَنْ يَكُونُوا عَلَى هَذَا الْوَصْفِ, and that this be how they are and how they can be described as. فإن البنيان المجموع من أساسات وحيطان محيطة كلية وحيطان تحيط بالمنازل المختصة وما تتضمنه من سقوف وأبواب ومصالح ومنافع كل نوع من ذلك لا يقوم بمفرده حتى ينضم بعضها إلى بعض. Because a building is composed of its asasat, and its foundational things, its pillars, and its foundation, these sorts of things, its roof, its doors, and all of its various facets and amenities. كل نوع من ذلك لا يقوم بمفرده. No part of the building can stand on its own. No part of the building is sufficient. If a person was to deliver a roof to you, and you were to pay a person to put a roof on a building, anybody who works in construction, which happens to be the trade of a majority of people in our communities, wherever you go in America, mashallah, it's an honorable profession. And a person who has to build something from the ground up, you have stages that you go through to build something. You have stages that you go through to build something. If a person was to be paid to build a roof, build the roof, and they come before the foundation is built, and they build the framing, and they put the shingles on, and so on and so forth. He say, "Hada la yakfi." And what are we going to do with it? Nobody's going to be happy. And if you just have a roof, if you have a roof without a foundation, or if you have a foundation without a roof, right? You spend $1 million on a project in a building, and you have everything, and it looks perfect except for the simple fact you don't have a roof, right? Every part is essential. Every part of the building is essential, he says. He says you have walls that are exterior walls, and walls that are interior walls that frame and that go around the individual rooms of the house. And what they contain of ceilings and doors and amenities and so on and so forth. كل نوع من ذلك لا يقوم بمفرده حتى ينضم بعضها إلى بعض. Each element of the house is not mutually exclusive. It is something that needs to be connected to every other part of the building or of the house. وكذلك المسلمون يجب أن يكونوا كذلك. That is how it is mandatory for the Muslims to reinforce each other and to be. فيراعوا قيام دينهم وشرائعه وما يقوم ذلك ويقويه. And so they must cooperate with each other to be mindful of what it takes to establish their religion and the laws of their religion, and what it is required to straighten what is crooked and to reinforce what is weak. وَيُزِيلُ مَوَانِعِهِ وَيُزِيلُ مَوَانِعَهُ وَعَوَارِضَهُ. And to remove any type of negative symptoms from the body of the believers, or anything that is preventing the believers from progressing. فالفروض العينية يقوم به كل مكلف لا يسع مكلفا قادرا تركها أو الإخلال بها. You have in Islam things that are individual responsibilities obligated upon every Muslim who is able-bodied, so on and so forth. Who is able-bodied, you have some duties that are specific for the men, like the Salat and Jama'ah in the masjid. Some duties that are ayniyah, furud ayniyah, but just upon the woman, like the statement of Allah, وَقَرْنَ فِي بُيُوتِكُنَّ, and sequester yourselves in your homes. And there are some things that are specific for the men, some things are specific for the women, but they are things that are mutual between the Muslims in general. لا يسع مكلفا قادرا تركها. It is not possible for a person who is able-bodied and who is responsible for their actions to abandon these particular affairs. أو الإخلال بها. Each of them are required to do these things, and no one is allowed to leave them off or to ignore them. Or فروض الكفايات. Then you have other things that are called communal responsibilities. Communal responsibilities. يجعل في كل فرد منها من يقوم به من المسلمين. أو يجعل في كل فرد منها من يقوم به من المسلمين. For every one of these responsibilities that are needed in the community, people are appointed from the believers who are suitable and qualified to do the job. بحيث تحصل بهم الكفاية, to the point that enough people are appointed to each responsibility that are sufficient and that are necessary to accomplish the task at hand. ويتم بهم المقصود المطلوب, and that are required for the objective to be attained. قال تعالى في الجهاد. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, He said about striving in His path in a military sense. He says, وَمَا كَانَ الْمُؤْمِنُونَ لِيَنْفِرُوا كَافَةً. And it is not for the believers. The believers are not to all go out. And for the military endeavor, and for the military struggle, and where the conditions are present for that. فَلَوْلَا نَفَرَ مِنْ كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ مِّنْهُمْ طَائِفَةٌ يَتَفَقَّهُ فِي الدِّينِ وَلِيُنْذِرُوا قَوْمَهُمْ إِذَا رَجَعُوا إِلَيْهِمْ. So let there go forth from them. And notice here, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala starts the verse by talking about the believers going out to participate in defending the frontiers and fighting against the enemies who are posing a threat to the borders of the Muslim lands and these sorts of affairs. Right? He's talking about people being dispatched for that purpose. People going out, having been ordered by the valid, legal Muslim ruler and authority to do so, going out for that purpose. And then he talks about people not remaining behind to learn their religion. He said, تبارك وتعالى فلولا نفر من كل فرقة منهم. If only a group would go out from every portion of the believers, any group of the believers, meaning every tribe, every neighborhood, every hayy, so on and so forth. If only a group would go forth to learn their religion, not remain behind. They're not just they're not people that are qa'idun, that are just sitting doing nothing. Meaning, Allah didn't say if only some people will remain behind. He said if only some people would go forth. Meaning if only they will be mobilized to engage in this struggle, which is ordering the good, forbidding the evil, learning the religion, to teach a religion, and so on and so forth. He said, فَلَوْلَا نَفَرَ مِنْ كُلِّ فِرْقَةٍ مِّنْهُمْ طَائِفَةٌ لِيَتَفَقَّهُوا فِي الدِّينِ وَلِيُنذِرُوا قَوْمَهُمْ إِذَا رَجَعُوا إِلَيْهِمْ. If only they will go forth in order to gain deep insight about their religion. لِيَتَفَقَّهُوا فِي الدِّينِ, to make a meaningful effort to deeply understand their religion. وَلِيُنذِرُوا قَوْمَهُمْ إِذَا رَجَعُوا إِلَيْهِمْ, and to warn their people when they return back to them. قال تعالى, and Allah exalted be He, sublime the Most High, He said, وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ. Let there be from amongst you a group of people, a community of people who call to the good and who order with what is ma'roof and who forbid from what is munkar. وَأَمَرَ تَعَالَى بِالتَّعَاوُنِ عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. Meaning that they are to be from the believers, any people who are qualified and knowledgeable to be able to speak about what is necessary of ordering the good and forbidding the evil, and so on and so forth. It's not something that is mandatory upon every Muslim who has reached the age of puberty and who is responsible in general for their actions, so on and so forth. It is something that there are specific people in each community of people who do that. وَأَمَرَ تَعَالَى بِالتَّعَاوُنِ عَلَى الْبِرِّ وَالتَّقْوَى. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered with cooperating upon righteousness and piety. فَالْمُسْلِمُونَ قَصْدُهُمْ وَمَطْلُوبُهُمْ وَاحِدٌ. The believers are to have a single objective and purpose. وَهُوَ قِيَامُ مَصَالِحِ دِينِهِمْ وَدُنْيَاهِمْ, which is that they are to collectively undertake what is of a good for them, religiously and on a worldly level. الَّتِي لَا يَتِمُ دِينُ إِلَّا بِهَا. Those things on a worldly level that are required for them to establish their religion. Those things that are required for them to establish their religion. وَكُلُّ طَائِفَةٍ تَسْعَى فِي تَحْقِيقِ مُحِمَّتِهَا بِحَسَبِ مَا يُنَاسِبُهَا وَيُنَاسِبُ الْوَقْتَ وَالْحَالِ. And each group from amongst them are to strive to actualize their purpose according to what is appropriate to their situation and the circumstance and the time in which they live. وَلَا يَتِمُ لَهُمْ ذَلِكَ إِلَّا بِعَقْدِ الْمُشَاوَرَاتِ وَالْبَحْثِ عَنِ الْمَصَالِحِ الْكُلِّيَّةِ. And the only way for them to do that, the only way for them to establish what is of a collective good for them and to come together to do that is for them to establish amongst themselves al-mushawara, and the concept and the institution of seeking consultation, and of mutual consultation. And mutual consultation has its shurut, and it has its huquq, its duties, it has its prerequisites, its conditions, so on and so forth. The person doesn't go to just anyone and ask for advice. They go to people who are qualified. And there are some people who say that Islam and democracy are synonymous to each other or are mutaqariban. And this is aynul kadhib. They say that they are similar to each other. And this is a pure lie. And a Muslim community is not a democracy. Everyone does not have a right to an opinion. That is fawda. That's chaos. That's foolishness. To think that every person in the community has a right to interject their opinion about whatever they feel compelled to inject their opinion about. Any person, male or female, young or old, experienced or inexperienced, knowledgeable or ignorant, has a right to have a say-so about the management of a community, to the point that you find that a majority of masjids, not Salafi masjids, alhamdulillah, but a majority of masjids in general in America are run upon the principle of paying membership dues. Paying membership dues to the masjid to become a member of the masjid. Now you're a member of the masjid and you have what? You have the right of voting. You have the right of voting in the masjid. Now you have a right to have a say-so because you're giving a certain amount of your wealth to the masjid on a weekly, monthly, annual basis or whatever. And so now you have a right to decide things as big as who the imam of the masjid should be or shouldn't be. What is taught in the masjid or what shouldn't be taught in the masjid. The approach that we're taking collectively as a masjid. See how foolish and silly that is. And imagine a person going to somebody who is not mutakhassis in a particular situation and seeking advice from them. You go to a person, you feel chest pains, and you go to your mechanic and you say to your mechanic, "Oh, my chest hurts today. What do you think I should do?" That's not what he does. Barakallahu feek. And you don't go to a person, and other than his bab, as the scholars they say, "Man takallama fi ghayri babihi faqad ata bi'ajaib." Ibn Hazm rahimahullah ta'ala, he said a person who speaks about that which he is not specialized in is going to utter absurdities. What comes out of his mouth is going to be silly. A person is going to say things that are ludicrous. Right? You don't ask a person about things that they don't know. It's a condition that for seeking advice, that the people that whose opinions are asked for are people that have experience, they have tajarib, they have experience and knowledge in what they are talking about. And that they are people that are ma'mumun, any people that are that are trustworthy people who don't have a personal stake in the thing that you're asking about. You go tell another single brother that there's a sister over here and she's the whole deal. She's the whole deal, right? What do you think about this sister? What do you think about me marrying this sister? She's this old, she's, good looking, she's from a good family, she got some money put to the side, she has an inheritance. Or start mentioning all the, the good qualities of this woman. He's like, I don't know, man, maybe, that's probably not really what you're looking for. Next thing you know, he's married to her, right? And you don't ask somebody who has something personally to gain from a situation, right? What they think about a situation. The scholars that I mentioned in great detail, Ibn Muflih, rahimahullah ta'ala, in his book Al-Adab al-Shar'iyyah, has laid out stipulations. The Shaykh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala, in his khutab, has a number of khutab, or two khutbahs, I believe, about these affairs. The scholars in general have laid out the stipulations for al-mushawara. Al-mushawara is necessary. Allah tabarak wa ta'ala has obligated it. He has mentioned it as the description of the believers. وَأَمْرُهُمْ شُورَ بَيْنَهُمْ. That their affair, أمرهم مفرد مضاف and يفيد العموم يعني أمورهم كلها, and all of their affairs are shura بينهم, are done and carried out by shura, by mutual consultation between themselves. This is the description of the believers, but it's not just something that's atibatiyan, yani fawdawiyan, and it's just done without its prerequisites and without its mechanics and so on and so forth. The person has to seek consultation from people who are suitable and so on and so forth. But this is how things get done in the Muslim community, by way of al-mushawara wal-bahth an al-masalih al-kuliyyah, and by investigating in detail what is of a greater good, wa bi ayati wasilatin tudrak, and what means are necessary to attain the goals that they have in mind, wa kayfiyat al-tariq ila sulukiha, and how a person can and the way that a person can pursue the goals of the Muslim community at large. وَإِعَانَةِ كُلِّ طَائِفَةٍ الْأُخْرَى فِي رَأْيِهَا وَقَوْلِهَا وَفِعْلِهَا, and each group helping each other in giving their opinions and their statements and their actions pertaining that which is of a collective benefit for themselves. وَفِي دَفْعِ الْمُعَارَضَاتِ وَالْمُعَوِّقَاتِ عَنْهَا, and in trying to avoid and forego those things that are mu'awwiqat, any things that are obstacles and things that are interruptions that may come in between them or interrupt between them and their goals. فَمِنْهُمْ طَائِفَةٌ تَتَعَلَّمْ. So from amongst the believers are a group who are sitting down to learn what is important to learn for the community. وَمِنْهُمْ طَائِفَةٌ تُعَلِّمُ, and from them are a group who are teaching. I think about what is being said here. I think about the history of Islam. I think about how in the early days of Islam, the Nasara were coming from their backward countries to the lands of Islam to learn science and mathematics and medicine and so on and so forth from the Muslims. And that the first time that we know in history that the Muslims went from the lands of Islam to the lands of Kufr on scholarship programs to learn from the Kuffar the things that they had originally taken from the Muslims was around the year 1820, around the year 1826 or so. 1826 or so, when Muhammad Ali Bahjah sent the first scholarship students to Egypt. And this is something that never existed in the history of Islam, meaning for over 1,000 years, you never heard of Muslims going to the Kuffar to learn anything. Now you have Muslims today enrolling in colleges and enrolling in Islamic study programs, learning Islam at the hands of mustashriqun, at the hands of Orientalists. What's the hukum of that? What's the ruling of learning your religion? We know as Salafis, the ruling of learning your religion from a mubtadi', from an innovator. What about learning your religion from a kafir? Learning your religion from a disbeliever? This is the point of weakness that the Muslims have reached. The Muslim community is supposed to be self-sufficient. The scholars have cautioned for hundreds of years. We find written in the books of the scholars warnings against even letting your children learn mathematics from the kuffar. Even letting your children learn mathematics from the kuffar. There's a book that is called al-Madkhal by Ibn Hajj. Ibn Hajj tried to warn against innovation, so on and so forth, and he got caught up in many things that were prevalent in the times in which he lived, in that time in Morocco, and so on and so forth. But his book has great benefit in it when he talks about the harms of allowing your children to study from Christian teachers, even secular knowledge. And things like science or things like mathematics or the likes of these things. And you can see that obviously today. Everybody has an agenda. Everybody has their theories. Everybody has the deeper belief systems underneath what they're teaching and so on and so forth. You're teaching something as simple as biology and you're throwing all kinds of kufriyat, all sorts of nadariyat kufriya, all sorts of disbelieving theories and so on and so forth, in ways that a person can't even begin to understand. And the first thing that comes to mind, a person thinks things like evolution, so on and so forth. It's way deeper than that, brothers. Barakallahu feekum. There are all sorts of ideologies in the sciences, in the social sciences, and anthropology and sociology, so on and so forth. Sociology was designed to be a replacement religion for mankind. And people just unknowingly, not knowing the history and so on and so forth, they go and they learn these things from the kuffar that put them in a state of doubt about things that are from their religion and so on and so forth. And the Muslim community should be self-sufficient, educating its own children, educating each other, so on and so forth. And there should be people that are teaching each other skills and trades and things that they can use for their dunya and things that are necessary for their deen. They should be self-sufficient. There's a group of them that teaches, a group that is learning. وَمِنْهُمْ طَائِفَةٌ تَخْرُجُ إِلَى الْجِهَادِ بَعْدَ تَعَلُّمِهَا لِفُنُونَ الْحَرْبِ. And there are some that are going out to participate in the legal jihad, and that which is, and he meets the criterion of jihad, and where that is present, after learning the arts of warfare and so on and so forth. وَمِنْهُمْ طَائِفَةٌ تُرَابِطْ وَتُحَافِظْ عَلَى الثُّغُورِ. And some of them, they are standing on guard duty militarily, protecting the borders and so on and so forth. وَمَسَارِكَ الْعَدَاءِ, watching the different roads by which the enemy can invade a country and so on and so forth, as has occurred throughout the history of Islam. He said, وَمِنْهُمْ طَائِفَةٌ تَشْتَغِلُ بِالصِّنَاعَاتِ الْمُخَرِّجَةِ لِلْأَصْلِحَةِ الْمُنَاسِبَةِ لِكُلِّ زَمَانٍ بِحَسَبِهِ. And from them are those, and a group of people who are preoccupying themselves with skilled trades and industries that are necessary to produce the weapons that are required to protect each country in each time according to their situation. وَمِنْهُمْ طَائِفَةٌ تَشْتَغِلُ بِالْحِرَاثَةِ وَالزِّرَاعَةِ وَالتِّجَارَةِ وَالْمَكَاسِبِ الْمُتَنَوِّعَةِ, meaning that the Muslim community is supposed to be self-contained. There's nothing that they need from outside of it. Like as Shaykh Uthaymeen rahimahullah ta'ala mentioned, he said that people today talking about jihad are hamqa, that they're idiots. People today talking about jihad, they're hamqa. He said the Muslims today don't even in the majority of situations meet the conditions of defensive jihad, meaning self-defense, protecting their own lands from invaders, let alone the offensive jihad, that which is preemptive warfare and so on and so forth. He said the weapons that the Muslims have today, they're outdated and outmoded and bought from the kuffar. He said, and fighting them with their own weapons is like fighting qanabil with sakakin, and fighting against bombs with kitchen knives. And today people want to talk about warfare and so on and so forth. The point of what the Shaykh is mentioning, and this is the Shaykh of Shaykh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah ta'ala, and this is something that he dedicates a lot of ink to throughout his writings, all throughout his books, and he's speaking about these affairs that the Muslim community must be self-contained, that they must be, and you see this in other communities. You see this with the Jews, you see this with some of the different Asian communities, so on and so forth, as our Mashaykh have said, that wherever you see the Jews go in a particular country, or the Chinese go in a particular country, the first thing they do is what? They build a school and a ma'abad, in their place of worship. They build a school in their place of worship. And this is something that we're very far behind the buck concerning that we're not self-contained in so many ways. And you see that, and even with some Muslims and some ethnicities, some ethnic cultures of the Muslims, they keep the money inside of the community, inside of their own tribes and so on and so forth. And they're self-contained. They cooperate with each other, work together. But this should be done on a religious level. It should be done on a religious level for the sake of Allah Tabarak wa ta'ala, not just something as a cultural norm. ومنهم طائفة تشتغل بالحراثة والزراعة والتجارة والمكاسب المتنوعة. And there are some of that preoccupy themselves with agriculture and business and trade and all sorts of legal ways to earn one's wealth. والسعي في الأسباب الاقتصادية, and striving to carry out those means that are required to strengthen the economy. ومنهم طائفة تشتغل بدرس السياسة وأمور الحرب والسلم. And there are from amongst the Muslims those that busy themselves with learning about as-siyasa, meaning as-siyasa al-shar'iyyah, and the politics of Islam that are outlined in the books of the scholars, and so on and so forth, and what is in opposition to them, in a manner of knowing for the specialists, for those that are in diplomatic posts and so on and so forth, the ways of the disbelievers and so on and so forth in their politics that are built upon Machiavellianism and deception and so on and so forth. وَأُمُورَ الْحَرْبِ وَالسَّلْمِ, and they have skill at knowing about the affairs pertaining peace and war. وَمَا يَنْبَغِي عَمَلُهُ مَعَ الْأَعْدَاءِ مِمَّا يَعُودُ إِلَى مَصْلَحَةِ الْإِسْلَامِ وَالْمُسْلِمِينَ. And how to interact with their enemies, how to interact with those that pose a threat to them, and in a way that will bring the greater good and benefit to Islam and the Muslims. This is mandatory upon the Ummah at large, he says. وَتَرْجِيهُ أَعْلَى الْمَصَالِحِ عَلَى أَدْنَاهَا, and who know how to give preponderance to the greater benefit over the lesser benefit, and how to weigh the benefits and the harms. And this requires religious knowledge and experience and so on and so forth. وَدَفْعِ أَعْلَى الْمَضَارِ بِالنُّزُولِ إِلَى أَدْنَاهَا, and knows how to ward off the greater harm by incurring the lesser of two harms. وَالْمُوَازَنَةِ بَيْنُ الْأُمُورِ, and who know how to weigh between affairs and make decisions. وَمَعْرِفَةِ حَقِيقَةِ الْمَصَالِحِ وَالْمَضَارِ وَمَرَاتِبِهَا, and who are intimately aware of the realities of the actual factual realities of what is beneficial and what is harmful, not what is imagined. Everybody today is a specialist and an expert, right? Everybody today, they watch 45 minutes of CNN a day, and they come out and they can talk about everything from China to France to Wak Wak Island, right? People know about everything and they know about nothing, right? We're talking about, he says, حَقِيقَةَ الْمَصَالِ وَالْمَضَارِ, and what is actual and factual of a benefit and a harm and so on and so forth. They know with detailed knowledge and experience and so on and so forth, and the levels and realities of what is beneficial and what is harmful, and they can operate upon the principles of the Sharia that are built upon wisdom and bringing about the greater benefit and warding off the greater harm. وَبِالْجُمْلَةِ يَسْعَوْنَ كُلُّهُمْ لِتَحْقِيقِ مَصَالِحِ دِينِهِمْ وَدُنْيَاهُمْ. And in summary and in general, he says, summing it all up, then they are to strive and work hard in actualizing and making a reality what is of a greater good for them in their religion and in their worldly situation. To the point that the Shaykh Ibn Baz, rahimahullah ta'ala, he advised the Muslims, and we heard this from a number of our mashaykh of the years, like the Shaykh Abdul Bukhari and others, and the Shaykh Ahmed al-Najmi and others, rahmatullahi alayhi, and the importance of Muslims who live in non-Muslim lands supporting Muslim businesses. And if you're going to give your dollar and your wealth to somebody, the Muslim, and he in general has more of a right to your wealth, has more of a right that you support him and support his business and so on and so forth. And he then spending your money at Walmart or spending your money somewhere else, if you can get it from the Muslims, get it from the Muslims, even if it may cost you a little bit more, then there's barakah in doing that, and this is from a ta'awun ala al-birr wa taqwa, cooperating upon righteousness and piety. So this is something that is very important, that they are to look at what is of a greater good for them in their deen and in their dunya, mutasa'idina, mutasanidin, rahmakullah, and cooperating with one another in that, helping each other, supporting each other. يَرَوْنَ الْغَيَةَ وَاحِدَةً إِن تَبَايَنَتِ الطُّرُقُ. And they see that they have a common goal, even if there are many paths that are taken to their goal. وَالْمَقْصُودُ وَاحِدٌ وَإِن تَعَدَّدَتِ الْوَسَائِلُ إِلَيْهِ. And the ultimate goal is one, even if there are many means that help us arrive at that goal, each person having their own abilities and their own things to contribute. فَمَا أَنْفَعَ الْعَمَلَ بِهَذَا الْحَدِيثِ الْعَظِيمِ الَّذِي أَرْشَدَ فِيهِ هَذَا النَّبِيُّ الْكَرِيمُ عليه الصلاة والسلام أمته إلى أن يكونوا كالبنيان يشد بعضه بعضا. And how beneficial is it for people to act upon this phenomenal hadith that this noble Prophet ﷺ directed his ummah to, that they are to be like a single structure, reinforcing each other. أو كالجسد الواحد, or like a single body. إذا اشتكى منه عضو, and when a single part of the body feels pain, تداعى له سائر الجسد بالحمى وسهر, then the rest of the body feels feverish, and the rest of the body has a hard time sleeping. ولهذا حث الشارع على كل ما يقوي هذا الأمر. For this reason, the lawgiver تبارك وتعالى has encouraged with this affair, and the Prophet ﷺ has encouraged this affair. وَمَا يُوجِبُ الْمَحَبَّةَ بَيْنَ الْمُؤْمِنِينَ, and have encouraged us to do everything that brings about love, true, sincere, genuine love between the believers. وَمَا بِهِ يَتِمُ التَّعَاوُنُ عَلَى الْمَنَافِعِ, and that which is required to cooperate upon what is beneficial. وَنَهَى عَنَ التَّفَرُّقِ وَالتَّعَادِي, and he forbade from التَّفَرُّقِ وَالتَّعَادِي, and he from dividing and splitting and from having hostility towards one another. وَتَشْتِيتَ الْكَلِمَةِ فِي نُصُوصٍ كَثِيرًا, and being disunited in our belief system and in our approach to our religion. فِي نُصُوصٍ كَثِيرًا, this is found in a great number of ahadith, and if a person wants to read those ahadith and explanation of those hadith, and there is a book that is called al-Hathu ala ta'alufi wal-ijtima' by Shaykh Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala. And this book is translated into English. It was translated by our beloved dear brothers at Maktabat Sunnah, and in Grand Rapids, and they translated this book last year. And it's a very important and very beneficial book by Shaykh Sa'di rahimahullah ta'ala, where he brings the ayat and does tafsir, brings the hadith and does sharh, explanation of the various ahadith about unity and disunity, harmony and disharmony, and so on and so forth. And there are many texts he said in this regard. حتى عد هذا أصلا عظيما من أصول الدين تجب مراعاته واعتباره وترجيحه على غيره, to the point that this is considered a foundation, a tremendous foundation from the fundamentals of our religion that need to be safeguarded and observed, and weight and importance need to be duly afforded to. وَالسَّعْيُ إِلَيْهِ بِكُلِّ مُمْكِنٍ, and effort needs to be exerted to accomplish with everything that is within our capacity. فَنَسْأَلُ اللَّهَ تَبَارَكَ وَتَعَالَى, we ask Allah, blessed and exalted and Most High, and يُحَقِّقَ لِلْمُسْلِمِينَ هَذَا الْأَصْلِ, and to make this foundation a reality between the Muslims, in favor of the Muslims. وَيُؤَلِّفَ بَيْنَ قُلُوبِهِمْ, and to harmonize and unite between their hearts. وَيَجْعَلُهُمْ يَدًا وَاحِدًا عَلَى مَنْ نَاوَأَهُمْ وَعَادَاهُمْ إِنَّهُ كَرِيمٌ, and to make them a single hand against those who would wish them harm and those who show hostility and enmity towards them. Indeed, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is kind and generous. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه